Basically, it was about bringing in a new product from big manufacturer outside in Southeast Asia to Mexico. And what was really interesting about it is that as we make that transition, there were not a lot of companies who can actually do it. And so we worked with building up a new supply chain that could support not just the product, but actually ended up innovating the product so it looked better, it felt better, and ultimately performed better. This was a sledgehammer and a flagship product for a large tool manufacturer in the United States. But what's really valuable about it is my background is from Mexico, and so being able to make that transition, support an international engagement like that, and drive some of those synergies to my country of origin, but at the same time building up that relationship between two countries and the two societies was at a different level pretty engaging. So I thought about two things. One is procurement slide decks, right? They tend to be a little hard. They tend to be highly complicated. And so if I can outsource that to a robot and just have them do my slide decks, that would be awesome. The second part of it would be an interesting challenge for AI, which is around negotiations. So I would like to see how AI can actually help us negotiate and find leverage in the way that we negotiate with our suppliers, specifically given the fact that those are relationship-based, right? And so are we willing to start looking at negotiations from an AI perspective? I think that would be pretty interesting.
What would you name your robot?
Probably Dali, just because I'm Spanish and he was a Spanish painter, and he took very abstract ideas and put it on something really appealing to look at, and so I would like to see something like that. So with the Alexas of the world and the Sears of the world, maybe something more Spanish driven this time. So my tip around negotiation is to start the negotiation from the beginning of the engagement, not at the end, right? As procurement professionals, we focus on, once we have final pricing and once we have additional information about leverage from the market, we go to the supplier and we negotiate. But the reality is that what we're doing there is simply just beating them on the head and trying to find better pricing. The true negotiation starts at the beginning when we try to get to know each other. What are the advantages that a supplier can provide to us and the procurement function, as well as to understand what we need as a category manager from our supplier, and then say, okay, we're going to go through an exercise to try to get us to a point where you're happy and I'm happy. So the negotiations are through the engagement, not until the end of the engagement. So start early, start with a conversation and build up a relationship. I think the ability to build relationships, right? I think procurement is about relationships, not about savings and not about anything else. Those are byproducts of having good relationships. That's good relationships with your team, so those people who are managing categories, good relationships with the suppliers, so those people who are giving you, the services and products that you need, and good relationships with the company, right? So there's going to be a lot of stakeholders. There's going to be a lot of departments that have different needs and different requirements. A good CPO should be able to build up relationships with each one of those areas. I think some are. I think it's becoming more prevalent, and I think the social component of things is actually bringing a lot of light to that, right? So right now, if you choose or want to be competitive, you need to make sure that you're taking care of your community, because the market will respond to that. I think we as individuals, whether we're in procurement or not, are becoming more aware of what's a good practice, whether employing child labor or polluting the ocean or anything like that. Do we want to be a consumer of a product or a technology that does that, or do we want to find something that is potentially just as good, but it's more sustainable? And so procurement people should be aware of what their company's doing, how their market is reacting to what they offer, whether it's a service or a product, and how are we evaluating our supply chain and our suppliers to ensure that those practices are eradicated. I think that a lot of procurement firms are doing a lot of better job, and the procurement organizations are being more aware of that and taking steps towards that. I don't think they're acting fast enough.